It could have happened, hell, in Atlanta. It could have happened in Los Angeles. It doesn't matter. It's embarrassing, for things to just keep happening. I'm an African American. I am not happy how the justice have been, kind of dealt with over the years. The state of oppression in our community, but we also, as black people, had to do right by ourselves. We can't be hypocrites. My big thing is always holding people accountable. No matter what the race is, no matter what the gender is, no matter what the age is, we all have to hold each other accountable. And that's where we're living in.
Stephen A., what was your reaction to Cam there holding everybody accountable?
I was proud of him. A couple of weeks ago, I jumped all over Cam Newton when he did the interview with Trey Wingo because my attitude was just don't say anything, but don't sit in front of the camera acting like you're oblivious to racial oppression, talking about 1/8 of an inch of skin is the difference between all of us, and then after that, all of us are the same. I don't want to hear that. There ain't a black person alive who wanted to hear that, because the fact of the matter is that 1/8 of an inch of skin is the excuse that oppressors have used to oppress a certain segment of our population for decades, if not centuries. Having said all of that, I thought he stepped up yesterday. I thought Cam Newton, reminded us of who he is. I thought that he spoke sincerely from the heart, as opposed to somebody who was petrified of saying the wrong thing because he was scared of how it would be construed or interpreted. And that's why I was proud of him. Now, there's going to be a lot of black people that's going to get on Cam Newton, because especially during a time like this, for him to utter the words that we also got to do right by ourselves. We can't be hypocrites. And that's all they're going to hear. And they're going to be all over him. I'm going to tell those people to go to hell. I don't want to hear that. He's right. He's absolutely right. And there is a certain level of accountability that we have to accept for ourselves, because if we're not caring enough about ourselves, we can't expect anybody to care about us. Having said all of that, had he focused on it and glossed over what's transpiring now in the streets of Charlotte, North Carolina, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma the other day. And by the way, you remember the female cop that shot the guy in Tulsa? She's on paid administrative leave, okay? And you heard a guy from the helicopter yelling that guy looks like a mean character, or he looks like a threat. Come to find out, at least this is what they're saying. I don't know if it's factually incorrect, but what they're saying is the guy that was in the helicopter saying that guy in Tulsa looked threatening from the helicopter, mind you, 1,000 feet up in the air. Apparently that was the cop's husband. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they were saying. I was getting calls. I got numerous calls on my radio show yesterday with people saying that, but I don't know. My only point is saying what I'm saying about Cam is this. At the end of the day, there's two sides to this, and both sides are absolutely right. Absolutely. As African Americans, we got to make sure we care about one another, watch over one another, and not kill one another. Black on black crime, yes, there's white on white crime, there's Latino on Latino crime. As Dr. Michael Eric Dyson said, it's neighbors killing neighbors. It's not black on black, white, Latino. It's neighbors killing neighbors. But I play a numbers game, Max. I'm thinking about 66% of the population being white, 17% of the Latino population existing in America. That doesn't even include the 11+ million illegal immigrants, if you want to, or 20 million, depending on who you listen to, and they're 27% of the voting bloc, or the 13% of the African American community. The numbers are low for us. So when we do harm to ourselves, it's devastating. Having said all of that, while I applaud Cam Newton for pointing that out, and I appreciate it and will defend his right to do it because he's absolutely right in what he's saying, I also appreciated the fact that as a star athlete in the NFL, based out of Charlotte for the Carolina Panthers, he opened his mouth and spoke up about how this is embarrassing, this is disappointing, and something needed to be said, because those words needed to come out of Cam Newton's mouth, and they did, and I'm proud of him for it.
I don't agree on your assessment of Cam Newton speaking here. I think what he did was take a specific instance, because it's now at his doorstep, it's in North Carolina that this is happening, and he made it general. This specific instance, saying wait for the facts to come out in this case, is fair, I guess. I always think it's good, and that's usually my first reaction. Let's wait till the facts come out. But he took a specific instance. He started talking about black African-American responsibility within the community and da-da-da-da-da. And that's not what this is about, which is, and Frank Luntz, the GOP image consultant, has been consulting with the Panthers, according to reports. And Cam's answer sounded to me like someone who has been coached up in terms of how to spin an image. Look, let's deal with this specific instance, which is really what Cam is being asked about. Well, this stuff keeps on going on, but hey, black people also have to take responsibility. Yeah, this specific instance, let's wait for the facts to come out. Here's the issue. In North Carolina, they just signed a law where the police do not have to release video without being compelled by the courts. Right. Now, the law's not yet in effect, but it's been signed into law, and so they're citing that already, the police are, why they're not releasing video. Let's wait till the facts come out. The problem is when the facts come out, what winds up happening? Okay, ProPublica had an analysis of FBI data, for example, between 2010 and 12. Black teens, 21 times more likely to be shot and killed by police nationally than white teens. 21 times. So what? Okay, and then what happens when they actually, when due process takes place? Philip Stinson, who's an associate professor of criminology, Bowling Green study, 13 officers have been convicted of manslaughter for on-duty killings since 2005. So the sense is that even when the facts do come out, justice is not served for black people. And that Cam is being asked about this specific instance where the claim of the victim's family is that he was holding a book, and the claim of the police is that he was holding a gun, and video exists that the police have not yet released. I think there's more to be said than this is bad and black people need to accept more responsibility.
There's a couple of things. First of all of those facts I appreciate. Obviously, they're very poignant. We know this to exist. Nobody's denying that. But let's make sure that we're fair in this regard. Number one, Cam Newton is not a statesman. Cam Newton, Cam Newton is not a historian either. Cam Newton knows what he knows. You're watching the police reports. You probably read in the local newspapers. There's one interpretation, one version coming from the family saying that he had a book. You got another interpretation from the police saying that he had a weapon.
And there's video.
Hold on.
Won't release.
I understand that. The police officer who shot him was black. The police chief was black. So now we get into a bigger issue here. And if we're talking about just the specter, the possibility of this individual having a weapon, now we get into a bigger issue because, see, one of the things that need to be mentioned, and this is very, very important. I know we got to move on, but it's important that I say this because it's incredibly critical. Max is coming from a perspective of right and wrong. I am not disputing anything that you're saying. I'm 1,000% with you, and I agree with what you're saying. My point as a black man is I want you to live. So now, in other words, what I'm saying to you, if you did have a gun, if the police interpretation is right, I want people to hear that because I want black individuals to know, don't get out your car with a gun. I want them to know, roll down those damn windows. I want them to know, put both hands on the steering wheel. Don't get me wrong, because Richard Sherman is right when he sits up there and says, how am I supposed to go and lecture and be a conduit for change, influencing young minds and kids and telling them if you obey the law, you'll have nothing to worry about when we've got guys obeying the law. And there is something to worry about. I totally get that. My point to you is those are the incidences where we've got to bring that up. But there are other instances where if you indeed are provoking the police, you don't need to do that. You have to understand that to some degree, if they're law enforcement officials, they do have the power and you have to address it accordingly. Because if you don't, you're going to get yourself killed. So Max Kellerman and everybody that thinks like him is absolutely right. You have no dissenting voice here. I'm saying to you, we're thinking about the facts in terms of what's right and wrong. I'm thinking about surviving another day so you can convey and display those facts and live to fight another day as opposed to taking yourself out. That's what I'm thinking about.
I totally appreciate that point. What I'm saying about Cam is we've now reversed positions where originally I said, look, Cam's not a statesman. Right. Cam is, entitled to say, look, I feel generally this way. And you felt otherwise, like he sounded like he was worried about his brand. You now feel that he's saying something. I now feel that he's being brand conscious. I just want to say that I think the reason the problem is going on, and I would have liked to hear him address it a little more specifically along these lines, there's a big difference between a gun and a book. The police have video they're refusing to release. And I think the reason this is really going on is that based on the statistics and our history, even if the video was released and turns out it was a book and not a gun, justice is unlikely to be served. That's what's happening in the streets of North Carolina right now.
Yeah.
And one more stat I want to leave people with. This was as of yesterday. So Washington Post has been tracking police shootings. 698 people have been shot in 2016. Now, 173 of them are African American, but as you alluded to earlier, only 12% of the population is African American, 6% men. So those numbers are astounding when you're looking at those proportions. Exactly. We will leave it there. Colin Kaepernick sparked a sports-wide movement when he began protesting during the national anthem in the preseason. But how does the public feel about the 49ers quarterback now? Well, according to a recent poll of over 1,000 Americans, which is representative of the general population in terms of diversity, Colin Kaepernick was the most disliked player in the NFL, according to ePoll marketing research. So here it is in the dislike category, Cap finishing #1, followed by Jameis Winston with 22% of the vote, the Dolphins and Dominican Sue, 21%, Tom Brady, 13%, and Big Ben Roethlisberger at 10%. Now, I want to point out, in August 2014, the last time this poll was taken, Kaepernick was disliked a lot, but by only 6% of the population. Now it's up to 29% since the protests, etc. The coach, Herm Edwards, in the house with us to help break this down. Coach, what do you make of this?
Not surprising. I mean, if you look at history, look at Muhammad Ali, look at John Carlos, Tommy Smith. I mean, people even before that. I mean, when you do something that Colin has done, he is basically the voice of the voiceless. He's speaking for people of color. And you think about Lady Justice, she wears a blindfold, and she holds a scale that's balanced when it comes to justice. And at times, people of color feel that the scale is not balanced. And he's speaking up for all those that cannot speak, along with a lot of other athletes. And I think people get a little concerned with that if you're a sports fan. Why are they speaking? Well, that's just their occupation, the job. That's their occupation, being an athlete. They're men first, and their husbands and their fathers and their community leaders. You know, I have 2 little girls to raise, and they're 10 and 11 now. And we have this conversation every once in a while. In school, I say, look, most kids and people in general, they want to live their life to be liked. Don't do that. You live your life to make a difference. And sometimes making a difference and standing for something that you really believe in, it's not popular. And in this case, this is not popular. This is an event that is coming across our country right now, and it's one of those events where when color gets involved in it, it's uncomfortable to talk about, to be quite honest. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about those issues because you're an athlete or you're a person that's not in that situation. It doesn't matter. We're all in that situation. We're Americans. And this is becoming a part of our country that when I look at it on TV, I get disturbed. Because here's what I see. When did in our country a person's life not matter? When did that not matter? Whether it's black on black crime, whether it's white on white crime, any crime at all. When people die and all of a sudden it doesn't matter, it's kind of like, it's okay.
Plenty of times in our country,
right?
Coach. Plenty
That's
of
what I'm
times.
saying. When does that become normal for us? When it's just like, it's just normal. No, it's not normal. It should not be normal. Life is precious. Everyone's life is precious. And we got to see that. And when I watch this on television, I watch what's going on in our country, I get a little, I'm upset. I go, what is this? We're better than this. All of us are better than that. So that's what Colin is standing up for and the rest of these athletes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Life has been cheap in this country for various groups plenty of times. To answer your rhetorical question, Native Americans in the beginning, obviously African Americans, Japanese internment camps. There have been plenty of very bad episodes in our country's history, which nevertheless is the greatest country in the world. This list, when I look at it, I see Jameis Winston, who had some problems in college, serious legal problems, but he has a big personality. He's a winning quarterback, and that goes a long way. So a lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. I wouldn't say that's polarizing exactly. Ndamukong Suh is considered a dirty player, and he's a star, so people don't like him. Tom Brady, Deflategate, and was the quarterback during Spygate, and he's a huge star, and so people, don't like him or hate on him or have reasons to. And Roethlisberger also had some serious accusations, and I think people remember that. But Kaepernick is the only one on this list who I would say is truly polarizing in the sense that, having nothing to do with his play on the field, people, as Stephen A. pointed out several weeks ago, he has forced people to choose sides. You're either with him or you're, as George W. once said, against him, right? You're for him or you're against him. And when I look at everyone else on the list, I don't really see any, although polarizing is a word we throw around a lot, I don't really see any other polarizing figures. Kaepernick heads the list because he is polarizing, because he took a stand, because he forced people to choose. And while he's enjoyed much more support, I think, than most assumed he would, there are, of course, those who don't like what he did.
This is why I like the fact. I actually am happy that Colin Kaepernick is the most hated athlete in America today, because it highlights for me where the problems are, and it highlights what he wanted highlight. If you hate Colin Kaepernick, who quietly protested, didn't prohibit anybody from playing the game, didn't prohibit anybody from coming to the game, didn't block traffic, didn't impede the fans or anything like, he silently sat for the national anthem. When a furor was created because folks brought up our armed servicemen and women, he spoke about how he was not aiming his ire at the military, our servicemen and women, and then modified his position, his stance rather, literally, by taking a knee, but instead of just sitting down. And still, he's the most hated. Well, why? You know why? Because there are people out there who resent any African American who is in a privileged position, because their belief is you should be thankful and you should be appreciative, as opposed to respecting you for what you have earned, what you have accomplished, and the fact that you've done it in this nation under the rules established by everybody else. It's the closest, sports is the closest thing to a meritocracy that we have in this country. There is the flagrancy of the curtain and what goes on behind the scenes doesn't exist in the world of sports as it does in corporate America, which we all can attest to. And so when you take that into consideration, and the fact that he is still the most hated, it tells you practically everything you need to know about where we are and how far we need to go. And my last point is this. I said this on the air yesterday, Coach, and I'll say it for you because you weren't here. And I'll say it again. Whether it's ABC News, ESPN, or both, one of my dreams, my bucket list, is for me to do what Chris Rock brought to my attention a few years ago. He said, don't come to me asking me to host some town hall meeting with a bunch of black folks. He said, we know how we feel. We know why. And we have spoken out about it for decades, if not longer. He said, you want a real town hall discussion? Let me, meaning him, and now I'm saying me, let me be, the moderator, the host, an audience filled with white folks who feel whatever they feel towards the black athlete, towards African Americans. Every white person doesn't feel that way. And I think we've evolved in a country where we can clearly see we've advanced, we've gotten a lot better, and there's a lot of God-fearing white individuals out there who don't wish harm and negativity.
Part of the multiracial coalition.
But I would love to stand before a bunch of prejudiced white folks who have the courage enough to tell us why. That is where you will get about the business of making progress, because you can't legislate people's heart.
No.
What they feel is what they feel. But when you force them to confront it, You never know what progress can be made.
But you should never tell people how they should feel either, like how you alluded to earlier in terms of saying to someone, oh, you should be happy, you have this now, you should be pleased.
That's
no,
right.
That's not your job.
Don't tell us.
Don't
Don't-
dictate,
that's
don't dictate how I should be content or what I should be content with.
That line of thinking is actually the descendant of the line of thinking where once upon a time there was a segment of the population that didn't want slaves to become literate, didn't want them to learn how to read. That line of thinking is the direct descendant of what I just mentioned.
Yes.
If you get the opportunity to do that, my friend, allow me to be your co-moderator. 'Cause I would love to sit on that because that's real talk.
Yeah.
That's how you make a
Be
difference.
must-see
right there.
TV and must-see change as well. Coach, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
We
you, Coach.
appreciate you.